What is this?
It's just that when we get together, bad things happen and people get hurt.
Yeah, that's the point. It's funny.
People that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Blasphemy! This is madness! Madness. This is Sparta!
Welcome back into the Door Report, episode number 300. Episode number 3 freaking 100, Trevor.
Who would have thought?
300. 300. Shout out Chief Keef.
I keep it 300.
Shout out Chief Keef. On a getting lovelier, improving Tennessee weather, Monday, January 27th, 2025. I am Will Byrum. Joined as always by my big suited co-host, Trevor Hulan, aka Hack Squat Jim Duggan. Here at the Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Shipping is always fast and free. You can check out 615 Collectibles directly through their hyperlink at www.ebay.com/str/615 collectibles, or you can just go to ebay.com and type in the eBay search bar 615 collectibles. Phoebe, you are really wanting to be involved early.
She is like, I just want to be in your lap. That big suit looks cozy.
So,
can hold both of you guys.
So now, if you are watching episode 300, which we have video on everything but Apple Podcasts because they do not have that capability. So Spotify, YouTube, you might be looking at me and Trevor and saying these fine, dashing gentlemen are in suits of some kind. Why are they in these suits, you could ask? Because episode 300 is officially going to be titled Big Suit Boost. The Big Suit Boost episode. Vanderbilt is eating the cats.
Vanderbilt is eating the cats!
You, Phoebe, the cats.
Shout out to Nick Lezynski, honoring him on this wonderful episode number 300, who came up to me Saturday and said he loves the pod. Yeah, we'll give the fans a little
Give the people what they want.
A little there, showing a little leg. Yeah, there we go. Just big suits all around. Just
mine's a size 60, I believe.
Mine is a 62.
Okay, nice. We went down to Southern Thrift. Shout out to them. Hell of a deal on this jacket.
Oh, great. Can't beat the deal at Southern Thrift.
$16.38 after tax. And I went for an upper tier suit. So I didn't go for base level.
No, mine was $12.99.
Oh, nice. But officially titled The Big Suit Boost episode. We have almost exclusively, well, pretty much exclusively until baseball season starts. We have basketball to discuss, and we have glorious basketball to discuss. Only one game to recap, no midweek game to preview. Vanderbilt is off during the midweek. They have Oklahoma coming up on Saturday. We will briefly preview that, but mostly this episode is going to be recapping Vanderbilt's upset victory over the Kentucky Wildcats, 74-69, and then kind of general takeaways, because we were talking about this last night, and I don't know if I'm describing this how I said it. I think I said it decently well. I was like, you can't really judge college basketball season just blank 50% of games have been played. That's 50% of the season. I think that non-con play, even though it constitutes close to half, it's not fully half, but close to half of your games, non-con play is like 20%, 25% of your season, maybe 20%. The conference play is 80% of your season.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt's not quite halfway through SEC play, but they're pretty close. So I feel like this is almost a 50% mark of the season in some ways. The trajectory and view of where we started with this team has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
So we will be discussing second half of the year expectations as well as I don't want to say tempering them.
Yeah.
But just kind of a bit of a reality check after Vanderbilt fans 2 games in a row at Memorial have stormed the court. It's hard not.
Yeah.
It's hard not to
Yeah.
just completely blindly jump onto the train, and I'm not going to be preventing people from it. Vanderbilt basketball fans, soak it in. Trevor, you were there. What a weekend for you.
Dude, what a
sports in
weekend to
general.
be me. Well, somebody asked me, like, is this the greatest sports weekend of your entire life? And if you're just constituting the weekend, I don't know. Beating Tennessee in football, I know it's only one game, but like I hate Tennessee and I love Vandy football, so it's probably hard to beat that.
Across multiple sports.
But across multiple sports, it's hard to beat this
If you put that
weekend.
requirement, it's going to be tough to beat upsetting number 9 Kentucky.
Stormed
you were
the
there,
court.
stormed the court. Your Philadelphia Eagles, to the chagrin of the nation, are advancing to the Super Bowl to get revenge on the Chiefs.
Well, I want revenge.
As you so deeply desired as we were watching the Chiefs-Bills game.
Yep.
You were also one of the only people in the country rooting for the Chiefs.
I wanted the Chiefs to win because I want to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I want the Eagles to beat the Chiefs.
Trevor was in the minority there. So what a weekend for you.
Dude,
Also just the absolute cherry on top and sprinkles. Vandy women's basketball wins as well.
I was tuned into that game as well.
So just an all-around winning weekend. And if there is any sports fan and sports fan base that deserves it, it is Vanderbilt sports fans. So
Absolutely.
soak it in, and we will dig into this more and more throughout episode 300. But we have a ton to get into, as well as teasing a very special guest we have locked and loaded for episode 301. So we will hit on that at the end and announce it. But before we get into all that, we are now a part of the Rivals Publisher Network in our big boosted suits. Rivals is very happy about this.
Thank you for paying for these, Rivals.
Yes. Visit vanderbilt.rivals.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual subscription to support me and Trevor and support TDR and all of our great writers that are producing incredible content right now during basketball season. You can use code DOORREPORT, all capital letters, no spaces, for a 30-day, no-risk free trial. Again, that code is DOORREPORT, all capital letters, no spaces. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. It's now time for segment 1.
What type of dog is this?
This is a tortoise.
Is this a cat in a hat?
No.
it's a tortoise in a shell.
Yes.
Welcome back into segment 1 of episode 300. 300. Of The Door Report. Trevor, I was just thinking, probably should have talked about this during the break. The intro to this one. A lot of pressure on the clips I'm going to pull for this. Big episode.
Big episode.
So
The biggest episode ever?
So maybe I got to talk now. Bigger episodes we had Clark Lee on before. But biggest episode in number. What clips? I've got to pull something from the movie 300, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Something from there. I would love to pull in some Chief Keef audio. I'm afraid that's going to get his copyright checked. So
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. But also I have to include the Trump video of eating the cats.
Eating the cats has to go in.
But guaranteed there has to be a 300 from 300 clip from the movie, and then I have to have the Trump eating the cats. The rest is kind of up to me.
Maybe some footage of coal miners doing work.
Okay.
Because Kentucky fans are currently in the coal mines right now.
We'll think on it. Everyone will know prior to this conversation what I decided to include. So that's a very stressful, a lot of weight on my mind. But I did put out, I also forgot to do it early. Again, sorry, Rival Sports subscribers, but I put it out this morning on the Rival Sport that we were recording episode 300. And we got a few responses and people asking questions. Not a ton. So number 1, comparing this team to the 2011-2012 team. Saturday's win felt like an ascension compared to the 2011-2012 team's SEC tournament championship over Kentucky, which was validation on the legacy of the Jenkins-Taylor-Ezeli teams, who had come close multiple times against top-ranked teams and were all about to head to the NBA draft. What do you guys see for the future of this current Vandy team? Interesting question.
That is a tough question. I think this one also, not as much as that 2011-2012 team. I also do think this is a validation as well. because I think as much as we wouldn't do that, I think the nation at large could have looked at that Vanderbilt Tennessee win and been like, man, like Tennessee just didn't have a great ball game. Like Vanderbilt just outclassed them. Vanderbilt pulled one over on the on the ranked opponent. I think what this Kentucky win does is this also validates it to an extent that it shows the rest of the SEC, and I think it shows people nationwide that, this Vanderbilt basketball team is really good. It's not some flash in the pan. They just got a lucky upset that you see every now and again in college basketball. They can compete with these teams, and I think that's what it proved for this team. As for how they move forward, no clue.
Okay, so it's a lot to unpack.
It's a tough question.
So I don't want to diminish what this team has done, beating back-to-back top 10 teams at home. And basically, I don't want to say Memorial Magic was dead, but it was on life support.
It was dead.
But it wasn't dead. It was on life. It wasn't fully dead. It was a year or two away.
It was in hibernation.
It was in a coma.
Yeah.
And this Vanderbilt team has brought it back. So I'm not diminishing that whatsoever. But I want to just pump the brakes on the comparison to like the 2011-2012 team. Like that was the first SEC tournament or conference tournament championship since 1951.
Oh, yeah.
So like I understand what he's saying is that was more of a coronation of this team's top achievement. But like once again, you're kind of falling into the aspect of the expectations of that team were like, we got to win a championship now, and they did it. Like this is their opportunity versus this team had almost no expectations and they're just violently exceeding them. So I don't want to fall into that. This team didn't do for the program what the 2011-2012 team has done. But
no.
But it's done something very different. And the future question, which is what I'm saying is a lot to unpack, which was added on, is difficult because this roster is built with a lot of transfers in with a lot of variation in how many years of eligibility they have left. I mean, Jalen Carey's 19 years old. Jason Edwards, this is his last year. Like there's a huge variation. Kajani Wright, what's his future? Like Tyler Nickel, he's what, a junior this year?
He has a year left. AJ Hogard back.
Yeah, you're not getting Hogard back. So you're maintaining some talent, but you're also losing, you could argue, your two most key pieces in Hogard and Edwards this season. But then you have Tanner as a freshman. So there's things to build on, but there's a lot of questions that have to be answered by Byington in a full recruiting cycle. So this team is, I'm not diminishing what they've done. This team has fully turned around Vanderbilt basketball's national image in a way. It's not quite as hard a task as what the football team did. Like it's still in the memory bank of 27-year-olds that Vanderbilt basketball was really good their whole life. But this team has done something incredible where they're being talked about and tweeted about by CBS Sports and by ESPN and SEC Network and Memorial Magic, baby, it's back. So this team has done something special, but I want to pump the brakes on comparing any team to that team.
No, I agree. Yeah,
I don't think that's what he was meaning to do.
I think it was just the correlation between
absolutely.
Huge Kentucky
100%. They're very different, but it does feel like this is step one versus that was kind of the culmination of Kevin Stallings' tenure.
That was the magna opus.
Yeah. So, and then a disappointing NCAA tournament appearance following that.
I still lose sleep about that Wisconsin game.
So there are comparisons to be drawn, but I would just. It's a different scale of comparison, I would say. But yeah, it's not just step one. I mean, Byington has taken 8 steps forward in year one. Yeah. He's ranked in the top 25, man.
Yeah.
Ranked in the top 25.
Insane.
In year one with a hodgepodge roster of transfers.
First time since 2015, I believe, the Vanderbilt basketball is ranked.
And I saw people tweeting about this, but I didn't see a final. Has Vanderbilt ever had the same sports calendar year where the football team, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball are all ranked? I didn't see a final answer on that.
I would have to say no.
Don't
you think?
I don't think so. I can't even think of a time that would be the case. Maybe 08, but baseball.
But football was never. They were ranked. I'm sorry,
but I'm saying But did all the stars align? I don't know. So I don't want to give false stats, but.
I don't think so.
Regardless, all of when it has happened, all 4 teams are going to be ranked in the same sports calendar year. What Candace Story Lee has done, she's the macro, but like, holy hell, this is incredible.
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. Maybe 2012. Was women ranked in 2012?
That's where I don't know, because I don't know. I haven't kept up.
That's a fascinating question, though.
So yeah, if anybody knows that for sure, I would love to know the answer on that.
But now that you bring that up, just a small question for you. I don't think in our lifetime, but when was the last time that all major sports for Vanderbilt University were humming at this capacity?
Never.
I
mean,
don't think so either.
I would say the biggest answer to that, and the funnier part is exclude baseball from this, but they're starting from the mountaintop. So
yeah.
But the further question is, maybe you could say 2012. Like that's maybe where you could argue and say it's happened. The difference is right now is, where have you seen this happen where it feels like this is just the beginning, like it's early. Like that's the difference. It's not that these guys have been established and have finally broken through. You have year 1 with Byington. It's year 3 for Ralph. It's year 4. It was year 4 for Clark Lee, but really with the new staff, it felt like a brand new start for him. And you're finally in that direction. And then you have the only one that's on a downward trajectory, you could argue, is Vanderbilt Baseball, who's a top 15 ranked team starting out the season. So that was my point about Vanderbilt Baseball, is when you're the premier program for 15 years in a college sport, there's only down to go.
Yeah.
It's like they're at the mountaintop. You can just maintain. You can't be on an upward trajectory.
You can't keep
when you win
further.
2 natties in 5 years. You can't be on an upward trajectory. It's impossible.
Yeah, I don't think, definitely in our lifetime, all 4 major sports have never been humming in unison like this. I can't, in my lifetime, I can't ever think. And granted, like, I know we've experienced bad athletics, but we also have to kind of remember our age group has sort of experienced the golden era of Vanderbilt athletics. So like whenever you go to like the 2000s, the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, like all those teams were bad except for basketball.
We have simultaneously, I think, experienced the most embarrassing season in the history of Vanderbilt football and Vanderbilt basketball, while simultaneously experiencing the golden age.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because there's no argument for basketball. The 9-23 season was the worst season in the history, or the 0-18 in SEC play under Bryce Drew. One of those two was the most embarrassing.
Probably 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I would say the 9-23 year was the worst.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree with you.
On the other side is, I think that, and I know it's the COVID year, so that's like different, but the COVID year and having Sarah Fuller as the kicker and having to cancel your last game due to COVID problems, but really because you were just going to get boat raced and steamrolled. That was the most embarrassing in the season in the history of Vanderbilt football. And then losing to ETSU immediately after that was probably the most embarrassing stretch you can ever have. So we've experienced the golden age, but we've also seen the depths that you can reach. So, and I even think old Vanderbilt heads will say that was as embarrassing as it has ever gotten.
Yeah.
I mean, they were awful in the 90s, but they never had a female kicker.
Yeah.
So.
And they never went winless.
And they never, I think if they would have, they've went winless in SEC play many times, which is what they did. But they've never had to cancel an SEC game in the season.
Yeah.
So whatever. We're back. We're on the upward trajectory.
Who would have thought it, man? So many podcasts of us just literally sitting on the couch being like, do we really want to record? Or like nobody would care if we took this week off. You know what I mean? Like it's what a change.
This is a great lead in, and we have more premium board questions to get to. But I just wanted to say early, thank you to everyone out there that's listened and supported us to help us to get to 300. I will say, you haven't supported us financially. That's fine, but
who cares?
But you've supported us by listening, and the moral support is more important than that, because without people actually engaging and listening and needing bitch fests, which is why we did this, is we needed bitch fests and people were craving it and they got it here. Without that, we wouldn't be at episode 300. So shout out to everybody in the TDR Nation. Thank you for that. So let's get to some more premium message board questions. On to the next one, a two-parter. Says, do we have any update on Kajani Wright or Alex Hemingway? Number one, any chance Hemingway plays this year?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
We have no official source on that, but
I have it on pretty good word. He's not going to play. And in terms of Wright, I don't think you're going to see him this year either.
And then any chance either is healthy and can play next year?
Kajani
Wright, without a doubt.
I think Alex as well.
It will depend on what happens. His is a lower leg injury.
Yeah.
They've been very vague about it. Hemingway is one I don't depending on how the roster shakes out, will he be here next year?
I think that's a really
Kajani
good
Wright, I think without a doubt, you will see in black and gold next year.
I 110%
and he
agree.
is the missing piece on this roster right now too.
Yeah.
That's what's been lost, and I've done a bad job hitting on it, is Mark Byington didn't forget to recruit a quality big man, or at least a filler in the big man. Kajani Wright from USC, he was that guy.
He just got bad
and
luck.
it was just a bad luck with some health problems. So, yes, I think Kajani Wright will be back next year.
I agree.
Next question. Could Vandy possibly be ranked top 15 or top 10 when Auburn comes to town?
Top 15, I do think so. Yeah, I think that's a possibility. A lot of things would have to happen in front of them, but also a lot of things didn't really happen in front of them this week, and they made it into the top 25.
So the question to that is, they will be without a doubt top 15 if they win 3 straight.
Mhm.
I mean, if they beat number 6 Florida or wherever they are ranked when they play them, they will be top 15. Top 10, that depends on what.
Tough.
That's what happens in front of them. You don't just break into the top 10 from wins. You break into the top 10 from wins and teams losing.
Yep.
So that's going to depend on how the next 3 games play out. But yeah, top 15. If you win the next 3, you will be top 15.
Yep, I totally agree.
So, and then the second part of that question, which I've got to find to my tab, was also, Will, how come free throws aren't free for this team? How can they fix their free throw struggles? You want to know my answer to that question?
I think I know.
Get in the gym and shoot free throws. That's the answer. It's not fun.
It's not
sexy. Get in the gym and shoot 100 free throws bare minimum every single day of your entire life. And if I could ideally do it, shoot 500. But that's unrealistic in the middle of the season. So there's no fixing it. Big men, I have pity for. I see their ball. It's hard to create rotation. It's why you see very rarely and why they're so valued in the NBA. Big men that can shoot are so rare. Jalen Carey, I'll give a little bit of a pass. McLaughlin is not a good free throw shooter. Or he's not a bad free throw shooter. That's what I meant to say. Not a bad.
He's not great.
The guards, I don't understand why Tyler Tanner's struggling at the line.
And Jay Collins.
Jason Edwards is a good free throw shooter. So is Chris Mannion, even though he missed a couple in the Kentucky game. He's like 82% going into that game. But yeah, I don't know. Shoot free throws.
Yeah.
Get in the gym and shoot free throws.
It really is that simple.
There's no other secret sauce or answer. Maybe try them underhanded. 36% is pretty brutal, but it was a small sample size. They can shoot.
Yes.
In my head, I keep thinking it's going to get better. The 3-point shooting has started to click a little bit.
Oh, Tyler Nichols.
And that's why they've upset these teams. The free throw shooting should follow, you would think. But who knows? On to the next question. Is it possible for POTUS to impose tariffs on every other SEC team's NIL fund?
I don't see why not.
I don't see why not.
I don't see. Yeah, I think it would be possible through an executive order to tax them or something. I don't know. I'm not an economist.
Donald, this is the most important pressing problem. Ignore the housing market. Ignore egg prices.
Ignore the healthcare system.
Let's forget about that. Let's focus on taxation of NIL funds.
Yeah, but not Vanderbilt's.
Elon, if you're listening, put Doge on it. Let's get some taxation on NIL funds. Not private institutions.
Nope.
Just public institutions, because private institutions, who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you guys love small government. Yeah, respect private institutions.
Yeah, private institutions, let them be.
You guys hate public institutions.
Tax the hell out of public institutions. All right. Easy answer on that one. It's a good question. That's all we have from the premium board. I will try my damnedest before next week, because we will have a guest that I continue to tease. I will try to put out that board on like Saturday or Friday, so we give people more than a few hours to actually respond to that thread. All right, already thanked everyone. Big Soup Boost, all that. So we now. Do you want to start the Vanderbilt Kentucky recap before the TDR cocktail break or after?
Let's do after, because I kind of got to pee.
Okay. Trevor's got to pee, so we are going to hit an early TDR cocktail break. So everybody out there, it's warming up, so maybe grab yourself a cold one. I'm sure it will cool down soon, so enjoy it while you can. But you can also grab yourself a warm one, because we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into episode 300 of the Door Report, and back into the Big Boost episode, Big Suit Boost episode. Trevor, we have the Vanderbilt Kentucky basketball recap to get to. Why most people are actually joining to listen. So you were in Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
I watched on TV. The television broadcast stated, and I did not believe it when they stated it, that it was 70% Vanderbilt, 30% Kentucky. I knew that was not true.
Mm-hmm.
In my heart of hearts, I wanted it to be true, but I knew it was not. So, Trevor, what was the environment like inside of Memorial? Environment and crowds, because they can be kind of two separate things.
So, in terms of the crowd percentage, the broadcast did lie to you. It was probably 60-40 Kentucky, and it wasn't close. 60-40 Kentucky's being generous to Vanderbilt fans as well. I will say Section 2L did carry the fight. Not a lot of Kentucky fans in 2L. And as always, and recently we got to keep shouting these guys out. The students, full. No blue in the students completely full. They brought the noise. The students were electric, but there were a lot of Kentucky fans. And, of course, here we go once again, the rich people in the Belmead Country Club section selling their seats to opposing fans. We have to do so. I don't know if there is a way to punish them, but there has to be a way to track how many times you sell your tickets, who you sell them to, and if you hit a certain threshold, you should be punished. People are like, oh, that's what they bought them. They can do whatever they want with them. I don't give a shit. If you sell your tickets to opposing fans, you should be punished. So that's what I'll stand. But overall, I thought the environment was great. Obviously, Kentucky fans are loud. Kentucky fans are loud at every basketball game. They could go to watch their stepdaughter play basketball and they'd be loud and obnoxious. But Vanderbilt fans were also pretty loud. The environment overall was not what you want as a Vanderbilt fan, but still, it was a fun basketball environment. And once again, getting to storm the court, dude. Also, my father, Vanderbilt fan since 1965, had season football and basketball tickets his entire life. First time he ever got to storm the court.
That's cool.
First time my dad ever got to storm the court.
Storm the field in football and storm the court in basketball.
I felt so bad, dude. So like we were.
Oh, no, he didn't.
No,
I forgot.
So we were.
I keep forgetting.
We were going down to the court, and I'm like, Dad, come on. He's like, no, son, you go. I'm like, no, Dad, come on. And so he wouldn't go. So I go down the steps, and I'm like, dude, screw this. I turn back up, fight through the crowd of people, and I grab him on the shoulder. I go, you weren't there for Bama.
Yeah.
Please, I'm begging you, come on the court right now. And he looks at me, he's like, all right. And so he stormed the court, and he was like in the pit, like jumping up and down, and he was just like, he looked like a little child. My 65-year-old father looked like a child.
That was at the end of the Bama game. Your dad was not there.
I was crying.
That was one of the most, like, holy hell. I knew he was sick to his stomach. Like, the mixed emotions he had for that.
So, I had mixed emotions. I was crying like a baby because I was like, I can't believe they did it. I was crying. Literally, I hug your dad. There's a video that somebody got of me hugging your dad, and your dad goes, I'll give you a hug for your dad. And I'm like, I just wish my dad was here. But then him and my mom, I FaceTimed him on the field, and I was like, I just wish you were here. He's like, don't. And my mom's like, don't worry, honey, we're on the way. So my mom and dad drove from Goodlettsville down to Lot 2 to celebrate after the game. So that was sick.
What a time. But he got to be there for the Kentucky upset. Getting to that game's actual recap, Vanderbilt won 74-69. Going into that game, Kentucky was ranked number 9 in the country, 14-4 on the season under first-year head coach Mark Pope. Kentucky had started out non-con play really well, including a win over number 7 Gonzaga. They had also started out a little bit of a mixed bag in SEC play, but that's going to be a little bit expected in this good of a conference. A mixed bag, and they had 3 wins over top 15 opponents. So just a brutal start for everyone, but they were also coming off a loss to number 4, Alabama, just like the Vanderbilt Commodores were. Vanderbilt, of course, going into that game, going into Memorial, the last game Memorial saw as a 76-75 victory and court storm over the Tennessee Volunteers. But the game following that, Vanderbilt traveled down to Tuscaloosa and lost 103-87 to the Alabama Crimson Tide. So mixed bag, but you're feeling okay because Vanderbilt at home seems to have some juice.
11-1.
And have something flowing. So to start out the game, Jason Edwards was the man early. 10 of Vanderbilt's first 12 points. He was the one that carried Vanderbilt early and got them out to an early lead. Vanderbilt played really well in the first half, a very physical first half of basketball. Phoebe, you're going to have to move. Very physical first half of basketball. Only 4 total fouls called in the first half between both teams. A slug it out first half, but Vanderbilt went into halftime up 41-27.
Yeah.
With every bit of momentum, it felt like. So you're sitting there at half, up 14 points at halftime. How are you feeling?
Oh, great. I like better than I was the Tennessee game. We were celebrating, and rightfully so, because Vanderbilt just put on a hell of a first half against the number 9 ranked Kentucky Wildcats. So we were having a good time and felt very optimistic going into the second half with the way the team was playing on defense, with the way that shots were falling. You sort of thought, you're like, okay, you have such a big lead now. Now it's definitely surmountable, but like if Kentucky starts to make shots, you just got to respond. That's all you have to do. If they make shots, you just got to make shots, and that's simple.
Yeah, and I heard somebody talking, I don't know if it was on another Vanderbilt podcast or if it was on the radio on like Stillman or something. But he was talking about it's been very interesting and cool to see Vanderbilt play and beat 2 different top 10 teams that have 2 completely different styles of play. That Tennessee is a physical, defensive-minded team, a top 10 team. Vanderbilt beat, and then Kentucky is that finesse. They're going to go on runs of just burying shots. Yeah. And they have the athletes, but they're a finesse team. And so Vanderbilt's beaten both. But that was my main concern at halftime, was more so than the Tennessee game. I felt like, hey, like this is going to balance out. And I say this is going to balance out because I was watching the TV broadcast, obviously. Wish I could be there in person as a fan. Somebody has to write the recaps.
Well, also, you do think you're bad luck as well.
I also am bad luck. We will get to that after the recap. But Kentucky scored 27 points in the first half. That was their lowest half-point total of the entire season. Kentucky turned the ball over 10 times in the first half. I was thinking they're going to come back out. There's no way they're going to score 54 points this game. That's all I kept thinking. And I said they're going to make up for lost time. I'm not saying I predicted the future, but that is what happened. It's easy to say I was right when it happens that way. That's also what I thought in Tennessee. It's not really what happened. But in this game, that's what happened. Kentucky came out of halftime, immediate 8-0 run. Yeah. Immediately, that 14-point lead from Vanderbilt, 41-27, was cut to 6. And then a key 3 from A.J. Hoggard, another key 3 from Tyler Nickel that temporarily staved off the Kentucky run. But eventually, Kentucky went on a 17-2 run. Yeah, in the middle of that second half and took the lead from Vanderbilt. I think it was. I have it somewhere in my recap here. Of Kentucky went up 58-54 with 8 minutes and 27 seconds left.
The feeling in Memorial was tense.
And Kentucky had, I don't know what happened at halftime. The Vanderbilt defensive intensity dropped. Something dropped, something changed. Maybe Kentucky just identified a weakness in Vanderbilt's defense. It's easy to say the intensity dropped, but something happened in Kentucky, or Kentucky just got hot. That's what happens sometimes. But Kentucky had all the momentum at that point in the game. Vanderbilt's down. And then a big man 3. Actually, it was a Jalen Carey 3 that cut the lead to 58-54. Kentucky was actually at 58-51 at that point. And then another big man 3 from Devin McLaughlin right after the under 8-minute TV timeout cut the lead to 58-57. Felt like Vanderbilt was right back in the game.
Yeah.
Those 2 threes from Jalen Carey and Devin McLaughlin were huge. Vanderbilt continued to kind of, I would say the best term I used it in my recap was fight, scratch, and claw their way to the end of that game. That's what it felt like. There was no real individual that took over the game at the end.
No.
Tyler Tanner really stepped up. He had a great end to that game. Devin McLaughlin is the one I think that technically forced the steals in those double situations, but Tyler Tanner was the one that came up with the ball and converted it into points for Vanderbilt. So Tyler Tanner ended up off a Devin McLaughlin steal, hitting a layup at the 4:05 mark to give the Commodores a 66-63 lead. A.J. Hoggard fouled Otege Owa right after that. Vanderbilt's up 66-63. You're thinking, okay, worst case, he knocks down both. Vanderbilt's still got a 1-point lead.
Yeah.
Well, Owe goes up to the line, hits the first free throw, 66-64 Vanderbilt. He goes up, misses the second free throw, gets his own rebound, kicks it out. Ansley Almaner, I'm mispronouncing that probably, from Kentucky, buries a three. Kentucky's all of a sudden leading.
Yeah.
67-66.
In that moment, I was like, we're losing this game.
With 3.5 minutes left, I went, well, that was the play you can't have happen. That was the play. You're playing number 9. You can't have that happen.
They've got all the momentum
so
now.
well. Well, then immediately AJ Hogarth went down and hit a layup.
Yeah.
And it just took the air out of the Kentucky fans in that gym, it felt like. And then, of course, Kentucky followed it up with a layup to take the lead back. Then a few back and forth possessions, and then Tyler Nickel buries a huge three from the wing and gives Vanderbilt a 71-69 lead with 1:50 remaining. Kentucky didn't score the rest of the game. Vanderbilt's defense stepped up.
Locked them up.
They forced a lot of turnovers on Kentucky's final possessions. Tanner, other guys, great job defensively.
Grant Huffman played well on defense.
Great job
Magnon.
defensively to close out that game. Devin McLaughlin had another putback layup to give Vanderbilt and extend their lead to 2 possessions, 73-69. Jason Edwards got fouled, went 1 of 2 from the line. Eventually, a Kentucky missed 3. Final. Vanderbilt wins 74-69. Despite what Candace Story-Lee said, despite security's best efforts, the Vanderbilt student section and Vanderbilt fans storm Memorial Gym and storm the court. So, Trevor, what a game. A statement game.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody that watched that Tennessee game thought it was a fluke, but objectively, you can always say, yeah, they beat a top 10 team at home. It was a rivalry game.
An argument could be made.
An argument can always be made. This eliminates that.
Yeah.
That was not a fluke. This Vanderbilt team is just pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say fully good yet, but they're at least pretty good.
Yeah.
They're at least a tournament level team. Whether they end up finishing it out and making the tournament, that's what we're going to be talking about the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
But they are, in my eyes, right now, a 9 or 10 seed level team.
I agree.
And they have proven it with their play. They prove it against big dogs. They've proven they can beat the shit out of little guys. They are a tournament team year one under Mark Byington, and holy hell, does it legitimize us at the Door Report, fans, a lot of people, that Jerry Stackhouse was a bad college basketball coach.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. We were tired of excuses. We were tired of all of it. And finally, they just said, screw it, hired a real coach that had proven himself at a lower level program, and look what happens.
Yep.
Look what happens, how quickly it can turn in basketball. This is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
How quickly it can turn in basketball, but how much longer it takes in football.
Yeah.
One cycle, and you can
you can be back in
you
basketball.
Can't be necessarily a championship contender from being dog shit, but you can be a tournament team from being dog shit.
Yep.
And that's what Vanderbilt has done. So holy hell, what a win, Trevor.
And man, just congratulations to this team. I said this on the spaces after the game, and I continue to think about it. All my years of watching Vanderbilt basketball, and we've got to see some really good Vanderbilt basketball teams, I don't think I've ever seen a team that hustles as much as this team and plays as hard-nosed basketball on defense as this team. This team is just – this is one of those teams that makes it easy to fall in love with them. Like the underdogs, the dudes that just, like you said in your recap, scratch, claw, and fight their way out of hell. And just whether it's pretty or whether it's ugly, no matter who you are, whenever you play this Vanderbilt basketball team, get ready for a bar fight, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to get dirty. They're going to do whatever they can to win. And it's so easy to fall in love with this team.
It is so fun. And I specifically, I need to stop saying we, because I put words in your mouth. I specifically have always said how different football and basketball are.
Well, I've always agreed.
So I like to not draw too many comparisons, but there are a lot of comparisons to be drawn between these two programs. Football's fighting 50 years of bad culture. Basketball's fighting 8 years, so it's different. But Vanderbilt basically reset everything within those programs and just said, screw it, we're going to bring in a lot of guys with that fuck you energy. Yeah. And just that's what they did. That's what this basketball team has it to a different extent. But Jason Edwards is basketball's Diego Pavia. Like, it's not the same. I'm not meaning directly.
No, I agree. The JUCO underdog kid.
The JUCO underdog kid with no looks and led the state in scoring, but had no offers and begged to play, I'm sure, for his hometown team, and they had no interest. And now he's out here leading the team in scoring on a top 25 SEC basketball team. It's not direct, but it's like you see the shift in culture. Clark Lee had to fight within an existing tenure to do it, and I think that's impressive in its own light. But Mark Byington has done it in one offseason, and it's just with the Byington, the success early always leads me to just like, oh no, we're gonna have some competition for him very soon.
Well, and like the comparison with Jason Edwards to Diego Pavia, he didn't have a great game, but I think he still was a key contributor. You got somebody like AJ Hogard, who comes from a bigger program like Randon Fontenette, a similar storyline behind Randon Fontenette and AJ Hogard. We're like, oh, can they like really do it? They come to Vanderbilt and show, hey, we're those guys. And
also coming from the secondary school or tertiary school in that state.
Yeah.
But still a power conference school.
Bigger than Vanderbilt.
Very equivalent.
Yeah. And it's just, it's refreshing. And I just love this basketball team, man. It's like I said, they are so easy to fall in love with.
The story of Vanderbilt basketball. So we were talking about this before, and I don't want to bring it up because I don't want to piss off the old heads.
Mhm.
But like we have a very memorialized view of we view it through gold-colored glasses because it's the only thing Vanderbilt fans have to cling on to of what Vanderbilt basketball has actually been. They've been a very good / above average to average SEC basketball program over the last 50, 60 years. But it's not like they have a tremendous amount of tournament success or postseason success. They've never made an Elite Eight. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these things.
Made a Sweet 16.
They've never made an Elite Eight. They have won 2 championships since 1950 in the conference in the tournament. Like there's the story of Vanderbilt basketball has been pretty good, but fall short of expectations in general. Like they're always good, and that's why Vanderbilt fans have clung to it because baseball before Tim Corbin was shit.
Yeah,
football, of course, has always been shit outside of James Franklin and the few years here and there. But I'm trying not to shit on it too much.
Yeah.
That's what. So you need to jump in whenever I get shit.
I get what you're saying, but like what you're saying is like it still hasn't been like what Arkansas basketball has experienced, or like because I hate to be like Kentucky because it's like Kentucky, but like what Arkansas basketball has experienced, what I mean even like Tennessee basketball has experienced recently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like Vanderbilt. The story of them has been in that 2012 year, people memorialized it, of course, because they did win the 2012 SEC tournament. But the real story in the moment of that team was what happened in the NCAA tournament and how they fell short in postseason play of expectations. And during the regular season, they probably should have performed better than they did.
They underperformed
during the regular season too, but they made up for that with their run in the SEC tournament. So like they've had teams. This team is the first time I can remember in a really long time, and maybe I'm forgetting something, where a team has come in with expectations and vastly exceeded the expectations you have had. They have a long history of underperforming with expectations, but it's the same thing with football. Is when was the last time that Vanderbilt football, probably 2008, but went into a season and you're like, yeah, I don't know. And they came out and just blew your mind.
Probably 2008 and 2011.
Yeah, maybe 11.
Because people were like, we don't really know
it's
about
during
this guy.
the Mason eras when he went to bowl games, you looked at the roster and said, all right, it's got to get done this year.
Yeah.
And then after 2011, but it did. I mean, he made it to bowl games.
Yeah.
But in
no winning season.
Yeah. But this was the first time in both sports that like I've gone into a season saying, I don't know. And especially basketball, it's like NIT would be great. And then they've exceeded that so far. And then football is like, there's a lot of new pieces.
Yeah, you're like, if they could get 5 wins.
So that's why this is so positive. It's not just the success, it's success beyond our expectations, which were not expectations that were coded by being Vanderbilt fans. They were just realistic expectations with what you see on the roster. And they're exceeding them. Yeah. Which means whatever type of scouting or recruiting system they have in place, whoever is pulling the strings behind the scenes, Barton with football and other guys, they're doing the right stuff.
Absolutely.
Byington, they're pushing the right buttons. And man, it's nice to actually come on here and be positive for once.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy in the past to like nitpick and be negative, and it was difficult to find positive storylines. And for the past couple months, for Vanderbilt athletics, that has not been the case. You know what I mean? So it's a weird transition that we're experiencing right now. And I do want to reiterate, could this team still not make a tournament? Yes. But, and this is my opinion. I think we agree on this. This is my opinion. even if they do not make a tournament, this has still been a hell of a season and an incredibly successful basketball team that we are experiencing. And even if they don't make the NCAA tournament, my God, what momentum do you have going into next season? What insane between the progress of this team, and we haven't even talked about it. What we've seen with the George Huber Center that just got announced, not announced, but displayed. I mean, one of the best in the nation. And you really can say that for the first time in a long time, maybe the first time ever you can say outside of baseball. Yeah, what Vanderbilt has in basketball is in terms of facilities, is one of the best in the nation. Like the momentum that they have is insane right now.
Truly unprecedented. That's like the part never seen. This is not two 27-year-olds hopping on a podcast. This is two 27-year-olds with fathers who have been fans, grandfathers who have been
fans, have like never seen this.
I know we don't. I'm going to rephrase because we are part of Rivals, so I don't want to piss off the guys that have been like posting on the board since 2003.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know we don't have an understanding as in we didn't live through it, but I promise you're not going to find two people covering Vanderbilt sports that understand the history of Vanderbilt
and the culture of the Vanderbilt fandom
more than us. So that's the part is like, I've never felt this, that Vanderbilt's actually, and just, I keep doing it and I'm going to become a simp for her and she's going to make one bad decision. And people are going to shit on me for it, but whatever, is Candace Storey and Daniel Diermeyer. I cannot get over. I still am. So I will go back to, I'm still on, I like the Star V better than the new Fat V.
Oh, who doesn't?
So I'm still on that. But when they did it, everybody can go pull up the podcast episode. I don't even think you were a part of it.
I wasn't a part of it yet.
No.
But I remember listening to the episode.
I was doing it with doing the episode with Billy, and I said something like, I hate it for these reasons. It was unique. But why they are doing it, I still manned the argument of there are so many, because I don't say this often. People know me as a finance bro, but I had a full scholarship to Tennessee Tech, and I was going to graduate in 3.5 years. So I wanted to spend 4 years in college. So I got a dual degree in finance, and I got another concentration degree in marketing.
Yeah, Will is a very intelligent guy.
Nah, I'm dumb.
Shut up, dude. Shut up.
The one of the big things in marketing, and I think marketing is a fake field if you major in it and it's your career. Good luck to you. It's the dumbest people imaginable in that class. I cannot describe the intelligence difference between my finance classes and my marketing classes, but marketing, one of the key principles are you're hitting at the underlying how the brain works. Like you're about to get your doctorate in psychology.
Marketing psychology.
Yeah, marketing is basically like dumb psychology.
Yeah.
There are things that people say and things they will say on surveys and then how people actually act and react.
Yeah.
And there were underlying narratives and how people viewed Vanderbilt, and a lot of it was tied to that Star V logo. And so there was a lot of narratives. Vanderbilt fans loved it because it was unique.
It was ours.
It was ours. No one else looked like the Vanderbilt Star V. No one else was like that. But they needed a rebrand. No one would argue Vanderbilt needed to reimagine itself and how they operated. And I think step one for them in that to truly say we're in a new era was changing the logo and just saying, even though diehards like us, they're saying they will get on board.
Yeah.
They will see that we're just trying to say, screw with the old. There's no more Vanderbilt expectations. There's just expectations. And so I'm using that as like the sign of when things really started changing because like coaches always like to say, success is not always linear. It's not always you make a change and things get better. But the trajectory when you take a step back from 2021 to now is undeniably so forward and upward outside of baseball. But you were already the king of baseball. So what are you going to do about that?
Yeah. I mean, and you're still a premier powerhouse.
But that's kind of very long-winded. I think initially your remark was saying that regardless, this is a success of a season, basically. But that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, a culture change had to happen.
The culture, you've already witnessed the culture change. It's why I'm very confident they are going to be a bubble team / make the tournament. But this isn't a fluke. A culture change just happened. They're going to come in next year, and they're going to be improved from this.
Yeah.
Basketball, I am 100% sure whatever roster Byington trots out there will be better than this roster next year.
And this is a good roster.
And this is a good roster. It will be able to be put together. He's a full cycle to recruit.
Mm-hmm.
But did we even hit on the box score of this game?
No,
We haven't even got to that. We've been talking a lot. I said this is going to be a 30-minute episode. Our other roommate, Alex, is wanting to meal prep, and we told him we'd be done at 6:45. It is way past that. Okay, let's go to the box score. So, led the team. He was the MVPG, TDR's most valuable point guard of the game, was Jason Edwards with 18 points. 10 of those were in like the first 4 minutes of the game, but 6 of 11 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. Second on the team in points was Devin McLaughlin with 14, 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, 6 total rebounds. Tyler Nickel with 11, 3 of 6 from 3, 4 of 7 from the field, 4 rebounds. Jalen Carey off the bench, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 of 7 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. The rest of the guys, Tyler Tanner had 7, MJ Collins had 5, Chris Mannion had 4, AJ Hoggard had 5. Grant Huffman had 0.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to bring up specifically and see if you agree. So it feels like to me Grant Huffman is back from whatever he was out with. We talked about this. I think Tyler Tanner has taken Grant Huffman's spot. I think they have swapped spots in the rotation. And I made a bet with somebody on the board about him getting less than 17 minutes and then said, unfortunately. Yeah, and then I said, unfortunately, I'm now betting on this when I never agreed with it. I'm just saying freshmen typically start struggling and they get bumped down in the rotation. But it looks like he's not, and it looks like he's taking Huffman's minutes.
Yeah. God forbid. And I love Tyler Tanner, and he had a really good game against Kentucky. But for the most part, and I hope this doesn't sound too harsh, but for the most part, on offense, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. That changed against Kentucky. Shots started to fall. And so, God forbid, like, Lord have mercy, watch out. If Tyler Tanner can develop a jumper, if that kid can develop a jumper, by God, will that kid be a weapon? And so I agree. I think I will note Grant Huffman was out with like sickness. I heard some murmurs that it wasn't just sickness, that there was a lower body injury involved. Not confirmed, not denied, but I heard there was more than just sickness. But he seems to be on the upswing. But yeah, no, you're right. Tyler Tanner has taken a lot of his minutes.
Yeah, and Tanner's done well. As I continue to say, it's been misconstrued. I think Tanner is going to be great for Vanderbilt, a really good player for Vanderbilt if he can develop an offensive game.
Yeah.
He just gets a lot of things excused because he is a freshman. I love a lot of the things I see. It's just there are other parts of his game. He doesn't turn the ball over. Incredible. But also simultaneously, there's an old thing in basketball that is there's a fine line there. With a point guard is like, if you're not ever turning the ball over, you're probably missing some opportunities to pass the ball into tight windows. So that's I would rather have it be like Tanner where he's too careful with the ball. So I love how he's playing and he'll grow from there. But when he is the point guard in the offense, he's not trying to fit the ball in these tight feeds to the post.
He's not doing what Jason's doing.
He's not doing what Hoggard is doing. So Hoggard makes some bad decisions. I've been the first to point him out, but he also fits the ball into a lot of tight windows.
Lord have mercy, does he make some amazing
great passes. So that's I like Tyler Tanner's game. I really like it. He's going to be a really good player.
Just gun shy sometimes.
But he's just a freshman.
Yeah.
He's just a freshman.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
I'm using my Mickey Mouse voice because I'm like, it's simple.
I will defend you in this aspect too, because like we got to think, like, let's think about, and I'm not comparing him to this player at all, but like John Jenkins, his freshman year, we idolized John Jenkins, and he's the greatest 3-point shooter I've ever seen. His freshman and sophomore year, that dude could not guard anybody on defense. Like his defense, and I love John Jenkins. His freshman and sophomore year were some of the worst I'd ever seen.
And
that cost him minutes.
It's what is so rare about Tanner is
it's the opposite.
Is what you will typically see keeps freshmen off the court is they can score and they can shoot, but their defense is just not there. It's so bad. It's like you just have to get to the point it's decent or even below average.
It got to the point where John Jenkins that first year, he was a liability on the court.
Tanner is the opposite. It's his defense is incredible. His offensive game has to catch up.
Yeah.
And it's not even a ball handling or skill. It's
just buckets.
It's confidence.
Yeah.
I think his jumper looks good.
Yeah.
He's smooth with the ball. He just has his confidence has to get there. He has to get a few more tricks in his bag, some college tricks.
Yeah.
It's way easier to get open in high school. I played freaking high school basketball. It's way easier to get open against guys like me than guys in the SEC.
Yeah.
And he played in Tennessee high school basketball.
Yeah.
So Tyler Tanner, hell of a performance against Kentucky. I think there will also be times, I'm not saying it's going to be Oklahoma. I'm not saying it's going to be Auburn. I'm not saying it's going to be Texas. But there's going to be games you're going to go, Jesus Christ. What
can't
was
buy
that?
a bucket, yeah.
You can't, like, he'll just be – and he's not a good shooter right now. He's just not. He's not shooting well. That's his problem. But he's staying on the court because his defense is so damn good. And the reason he swapped with Huffman is Tanner's a freshman. Huffman's a graduate.
Yeah.
And Huffman can't score either.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have the freshman that can't score that's also really good on defense that can develop a game eventually. So I'm all in favor of this change up.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it. I love it.
But it's like we said, man, if he can shoot like he did against Kentucky, oh my word. Like, hot take, this is going to be a hot take. I don't know where the hell you put him because you can't not start Hogard. If he shoots like that consistently, I think you have to put him in the starting five consistently.
I think you just continue giving him more minutes.
Yo, so you just think he's the sixth man?
I think Tanner he seems to be. I don't know the kid, but like he seems to be. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, he committed to Vanderbilt as a senior in high school
and stayed.
He's smart.
And stayed.
I think he understands that you have Edwards and Hogard here. That it's like, dude, it's nothing to do with how we view you. We just have incredible experience here. And then you also add in Huffman and other rotations that you have. He might crack the starting lineup a couple games. I don't know. I don't know if
his shooting just has to
the
get better.
Starting lineup has never mattered that much to me.
Uh-huh.
I care more about minutes they play at the end of the game.
Well, it's like Jason. Jason for a long time didn't start.
Yeah.
And he was the first off the bench at the under 16, and he was still our leading scorer.
Great at that point. So getting to the updated rankings, I didn't even hit on the team stats. God, there's a lot more to talk about.
No, you did hit on the team stats.
Oh, I did hit on the team stats. Okay, so Kentucky at the end of the game, I believe they had a total of 17 turnovers. Vanderbilt only had 5.
Yeah.
That was the ultimate difference.
Indeed.
In the game, Kentucky shot better from the field. Kentucky shot better from 3. Kentucky shot better from the free throw line. Vanderbilt didn't turn the ball over.
Absolutely.
That's simple as I burp in the middle of that sentence. Rebounds were not even. Vanderbilt was harshly out-rebounded.
Yeah.
Kentucky had 43 team rebounds. Vanderbilt had 30. But Vanderbilt still shot 12 more shots as a team than Kentucky because of turnovers. We've talked about it on like 5 straight episodes. This Vanderbilt team lives and dies on points off turnovers.
I think they had 21 off turnovers.
Their offense has to have that.
Yeah,
and just it is what this team is. Their half-court offense just isn't there. They don't have the pieces. They have to have 20 to 30% of their offense come from points off turnovers.
Yep, that transition is
and
key.
That offsets. I won't say what's the right word. Like I heard somebody, I think it was on the Vandy 24/7 podcast. I know we're not supposed to plug them, but those guys are great.
We love those. We'll forever love those guys.
Go listen to them too. Yeah. So I know rivals kick us off our contract. I love those guys. But I think it was on Vandy 24/7. They said the guy that they had as a guest, Billy had as a guest, said something like it negates or like replaces their size differential, and I was like, no, that's the wrong word. It offsets. It's because in some games it's not going to be able to offset. Like I specifically, and this is going to be a great transition because, as you say, I am transition god. With Vanderbilt's upcoming matchups, specifically against Auburn. I think Auburn is the number 1 nightmare matchup for Vanderbilt in their schedule, and that's maybe for a lot of teams because Auburn's the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
But the combination of size with Broome and the speed at which Auburn plays,
that defense
is tough.
Yeah.
And so I think that's when I will be predicting a blowout, even though it has nothing to do with how I feel about this team.
Yeah.
But getting to what Vanderbilt has coming up on their schedule. Vanderbilt does not have a midweek game, so they've got some rest.
Yeah.
A good time to have some rest off a win over a top 10 team.
A brutal stretch.
Vanderbilt has Oklahoma coming up this Saturday, a very winnable game. I say winnable and not a should win. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just had to question myself. Vanderbilt on the road, they have struggled on the road relative to at home. Vanderbilt on the road takes on Oklahoma. Oklahoma is not a powerhouse. They are a winnable team on the schedule, but it is on the road. Oklahoma is number 43 currently in the KenPom, one spot above Vanderbilt, who currently sits at number 44. Vanderbilt is ranked number 24 in the AP poll. Big time.
Big time.
Doors back, baby. But Oklahoma went undefeated in a very easy, or not very easy, but they went undefeated in conference play. Then they started out SEC play and had a reality check. Went 0-4 to start SEC play and then played at home against South Carolina, beat them handily, and then went on to beat Arkansas on the road. And then they play on the road at number 13 Texas A&M this week. So I think that will be a good one for Vanderbilt fans to watch to get a good feel of, because we don't know.
Be a good litmus test.
It's really hard to know. It's different than Vandy, but kind of the same. They're very even in KenPom. Both these teams can go in either direction the rest of this season. I think this is a very intriguing matchup to see which of these teams is above average in the SEC and which of these teams is below average in the SEC. I don't think this game will determine who makes it or who doesn't make it into the tournament, but I think it's a good signal
to see where they stand
right now.
I agree.
Two very even teams so far.
And it's like you said, you just mentioned their schedule thus far. Their two conference wins are against I'll just go ahead and say, compared to the rest of the SEC, probably the two worst teams in the SEC, between Arkansas, who is underperforming with John Calipari at
them or LSU,
and then South Carolina, who is winless in the SEC.
South Carolina is the worst team in the SEC.
Yeah, but Arkansas is archaic, is the word whenever watching them play basketball. 2 wins against them. But yeah, I think so far, I think Vanderbilt has played. I know Vanderbilt's played much tougher competition thus far, and has proved themselves. So I think that's a really interesting game. I think it'll be. I'm going to give it a similar vibe. I think it'll be a similar vibe as what the LSU game was. How that played out. How it was kind of like a clunker a little bit, like ugly basketball. I think we might be seeing that Saturday.
Yeah, we'll do predictions right now. I've been trying to save those for the premium board during basketball season, but we'll do them. I think Vanderbilt wins this one, but my confidence meter is very low. And this will be a big tell for me how much home court matters for Vanderbilt. If they lose this game to Oklahoma, I'm going to get a little concerned with their ability to perform on the road. And that's fine. With a team that was thrown together last minute, home court advantage is a big deal. So, but this will tell me a lot about this team. It's not going to throw me off the ledge or elevate me to the heights of heaven, but it's going to tell me a lot. So I'm very excited for this game Saturday to learn what this team is about.
I think that's very fair. Is this a noon tip?
2:30 on SEC Network.
Okay.
I do want to put a warning, as that's probably close to the last stuff we'll talk about with basketball. I want to put out an early warning that late February, early March, we will be adjusting our schedule. I don't even think I've told you about this.
I don't believe so.
I am going to be flying out to Seattle. To see my buddy who's in the Navy, who is going to be shipped off thanks to Trump for the next 9 months.
Oh, Lord.
But I will be flying out to Seattle to go snowboarding for the first time in my life. I will probably come back with a sling and a broken collarbone, but just keep in mind that week, the end of February, early March, might be a little weird, even though it will be key time for basketball.
We'll do Spaces or something.
We will have an episode. We will make sure we have an episode, but it might be funky timing / a quick episode compared to what we normally do. So I'm just putting that in the ears early of people so they know it's not a fake excuse. With our big ass suits here. So anything else?
Let Will go see his friend of the armed forces, guys. Come on, dude. Salute the troops.
Anything else you want to hit on here on episode 300?
One last thing in terms of the tournament outlook, I think I don't want to say Vanderbilt controls their own destiny because they don't. I will say I know that this Vanderbilt team is undersized, but what is the most important, not the most important, but one of the most important aspects whenever it comes to like crunch time, like let your nuts hang basketball and tournament time basketball, is guard play. And Vanderbilt, not the biggest team, but they basically have an entire backcourt. Their entire team is a backcourt, not a front court. And so they've got guard play. And so as the schedule gets tight, as the margins get smaller, I like the roster composition for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the whiskey or the Zen. I've got some hiccups.
Maybe both.
Maybe a combo. I don't know. I have the hiccups, so I'm going to try to close this out. Hiccups are hit. Last thing I want to close out. Episode 301 next week. We have a very special guest from SEC Unfiltered. Chris Phillips will be joining us to talk some SEC basketball, SEC hoops.
Our good friend.
Wanted him to join for episode 300. Unfortunately, my dumb ass forgot to text him until today. Today, as the hiccups continue, we got to close this out. But Chris Phillips, next episode on episode 301. Look out for that one. Should be a big episode. For myself, Will Byrum, my co-host, Trevor Hulan, and our producer, Phoebe. This has been episode 300 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Club.